There's no humbleness. So now I'll go to the third point. Consequences of the fall to very human being. So due to this sin, Adam and Eve was in very pure state, and they got tempted. After the temptation, when they eat the fruit, what happened? Fallen down. So the consequences of the fall to every human being, because they fall, what are the consequences for every human being? That we are going to study. To Adam and Eve, immediately death. When they fallen down, immediately death came into their body. Their bodies are subjected to death. But before the fall, the death was not in the package of their bodies. God made a body, it went down. In the sin, body is going to die. Physical death. Separation should from the body. Death is an intrusion, not an inherent necessity. Then spiritual, there is another death which is called a spiritual death. Separation of soul from God. So, when the soul departs from God, that is called spiritual death. Man no longer made God the end of his life, but chose self instead. Physical death and spiritual death. A man asked Jesus, Jesus said, come follow me. Okay, Jesus, let me go back to my home. My father, let me bury my father. He's old. Then I'll come in. Then you know what Jesus said? Let dead bury dead. You follow me. Does it make sense to you? That's what Jesus said. Let dead bury dead. How come the dead people can bury a dead person? Jesus is telling. You're telling that your father would die. Then you want to bury him. You want to become to life. And some people who are around, who are spiritually dead, they can bury your father. Walk in the streets, I'll see some dead people walking. Dead people walking? Yes, spiritually dead. Physically they are alive, but spiritually there is no life at all. God has been, they were separated from God. They're just continuing to exist. They eat and they put on the clothes and they walk and they live, but spiritually not alive. Very sad. The loss of man's moral likeness to God. So in the spiritual death, there is no moral likeness. The underlying tendency of the whole nature of God. Depraving all those powers of religious and moral nature, binding of his corruption of his affections, and enslavement of his will. So when the spiritual death is there, moral loss is there, and they don't have the natural instincts of love and affection. They could be evil too. What all they can produce and generate is evilness, bitterness, angry, hatred, malice, not having any care for anyone. They are very important for themselves. That is bad for themselves and bad for their close people and the people around and to the community. So those are the consequences of having a spiritual death. person. 2. Positive and formal exclusion from God's presence. Cessation of the walks in garden with God and the conversations with God. So Adam missed all the good conversations with God. 2. Positive and formal exclusion from God's presence. Cessation of the walks in garden with God and the conversations with God. So Adam missed all the good conversations with God. Did you ever lose a good friend or separated and really felt about it? Man, we were doing good, but now I miss him. If he's with me, I would be so happy. Or if she is with me, I would be so happy. Good companion. It could be male or female. It's not about the fatal attraction, but real affection and love in a heart. Banishment from the garden where God has specially manifested his presence. So these are the consequences of the fall. Imputation of Adam's sin to his posterity. The transgression of our first parents constituted all their posterity sinners. So we have inherited that sin from him. Therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all men because all sinned. So this is clearly telling. This scripture is clearly telling in the Bible that the death came from Adam's sin. Suppose if Adam never sinned, and all the generations it came up to you, how you would be. You would be innocent, you would be able to see God, and there's no death in you. You'll chill out, great, good, happiness, joy, and all the things. But now, death is there, the sinfulness nature is there, and all these things have creeped into us. B. For just as through the disobedience of one man the many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of one man many will be made righteous. That's in the Bible. 1 Corinthians. So one man became sinner through his sin. Because we are born to him, we have inherited the death. In the same way, through one man, we will be saved. That man is Jesus Christ. B. For just as through the disobedience of one man the many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of one man many will be made righteous. That's in the Bible. 1 Corinthians. So one man became sinner through his sin. Because we are born to him, we have inherited the death. The same way, through one man, we will be saved. That man is Jesus. Imputation of sin. Reckoning to a man of guilt which is properly his own, whether by virtue of his individual acts or by virtue of his connection with the race. Original sin. Participation in the common sin of the race with which we are charged by God by our descent from our father Adam. So, in our body, that the death is existed by the birth. So that is taking charge and it is bringing its death. When we are getting old, our face is changed. Our face is changed. And as we get older and older, we'll get the wrinkles on the face, wrinkles in the skin, less energy, finally weak. Man's relation to the moral law extend beyond its conscious transgressions to his moral tendencies, God takes account both personal acts and tendencies and the acts of tendencies of the human race. Man's relation to the moral law extended beyond his conscious transgressions. We don't have to know really what we have transgressed, but by inheritance itself, we have received the effect of sin into our body. Finally, the people have forgotten why the oldness would come. Oh, you're born, you are this many years you live, so therefore you're old. But this is not natural. It came after falling down of Adam. Number 4, in respect to the imputation of race sin. Actual sin is more guilty than original sin. The original sin is the sin which we have received from Adam. Actual sin is the sin which we do. A child is born, before putting any years, the child dies. Does the child would have the original sin? Yes. Because of that sin, is God is going to send the child to the hell? Because personal sin did not accumulate it yet. Yes. Will the original sin of that child would be punished? Yes, it will be punished. Who will take that punishment? Jesus will take the punishment. And he will be punished for this unborn, just born child, and who did not do the personal sin yet. And the child is allowed to go to the kingdom of heaven. So the effect of the original sin, we all experience all the life on the earth, but not in the kingdom of heaven. You are not condemned because of the original sin. You are condemned because of your personal sin, your actual sin, which you do. Which you do. Do I have my personal sin? Yes. But my sins are forgiven by God. I don't want to do sin, but certain times I do it without knowledge. Then I realize, oh, that is sin. Why did I do it? And go and ask for forgiveness. Certain things I have done, I know it is sin, I did it, but later on repented. God forgive that. So this is all actual sin. Maybe you know what you have done, and you need to work with God to take care of it. If you don't act upon it, the sin effects will continue. We are to hurry to God and hold on to His faith and ask Him to take away that sin and, if possible, take away its effect so that we would not continue to bear its effects. So, the race sin, the community sin, the community is the sin. The Prince George County is all one region, right? So, as a whole effect, somebody's sin, there will be a part which comes upon us. So, for all the sin, what is the solution? Lord Jesus Christ is the solution. He is the Lamb of God who can take the sin. And I can skip that one. You don't have to go into the philosophical principles, Armenian, mystical theory, contradicts. Let's go to the page number 13. Consequences of the fall on every human being. Page number 13 at the bottom. Page number 13 at the bottom. Consequences of the fall of every human being. 1. Depravity. Depravity is the lack of original righteousness or tendency toward God and the corruption of the moral nature, so that it has a bias toward evil. So when a person, when he starts sin, how would his life would be? What is the sin actually? Sin is, what is sin? Evil, evil desires. Evil desires. Against whatever's against God. Anything against God. So anything against God and God's nature and God's image, what He has put in us to act and behave. And when He has made man and woman, He made it good. But certain things are bad, right? So those are all called as sin, which are against God and God principles. And God principles were explained very clearly what God requires us to do and what God doesn't want us to do. Some are for the safety reasons, some are for the purity reasons, some are for the holiness reasons, which are not worthy to do, think, or act. So righteousness and all the unrighteousness is sin. So the consequences of sin. Sin is an act which we or which human beings commit, which are contradicting to God's will, and God has made this creation and certain things which He has put for a safety, for the sake of safetiness. And God has put, if you do an act which is not safe under the guidelines God has given, that could become sin. And God has placed an order the things how it got to be done. Violation of violation of that order also becomes sin. So when man does sin, what will happen to his moral standard? His moral standard starts depleting. It depletes as much as the man continues to sin. The sin is to the directly proportional to the um, depravity. Sin increases, depravity increases. Sin increases, his moral standard decreases. It is inversely proportional to the moral standard. And the moral standard comes down, its index comes down, 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 and down, and it will come to a point as it becomes all dark. At that point, the soul is called as depraved soul. They cannot reason well. Their mind do not function well when it comes to the moral standard. And because the soul has gone to depraved standard, they don't rejoice in good things. They find fun in evil, doing evil things. And even that fun would not stay long because it is increasing sin immediately to fall back to make them depressed, feel bad. Their moral standard not only depleting, their joy in the heart will be simultaneously decreasing and depleting, and then they will never find joy. Did you ever had a feeling, a very bad feeling inside your heart? You don't like to have that feeling. You want to get out of it, but you don't know how to fix the problem. So when a man is going into the sin, when his heart is his moral standard depleting, he don't know how to fix these heart feelings, then he will tend and go take some substances. He wants to experiment on the substance. That will make him more worse. You cannot fix, so no doctor can fix the soul condition. No doctor can fix soul condition. We are soul driven people. How can we keep up our soul condition healthy? Of course, our physical bodies, we need to keep it up healthy. We work out and we run and we lose our calories and keep fit. We'll go in front of mirror and see, am I looking perfect? Yeah, we can have a physical, very charming personality and a very beautiful for female woman, but if they are going and walking into the sin, their depravity is increasing and their moral standard is decreasing and their heart and soul condition is getting worse. They don't know where to go look for support. Doctors doesn't have. Some are some have the split personality because of the physical condition of the chemical imbalance, but some have because of their depravity. We cannot distinguish with our normal eye. If we are understanding God and our religious conduct is increasing and our spiritual senses would increase and God's perception would be working in your soul, you can see a person and some are gifted to say, hey, got the split personality because of the depravity. You understand? And when the depravity is there, their soul is exposed and vulnerable for the evil spirits. You might have heard about evil spirits. And evil spirits possessing the human being. This is one way how the evil spirits can possess, because he got the spirit depraved heart and his soul condition is not normal and he's in imbalance and is exposed like open door and the spirit to get in and use his body and his mind in the way it wants. So what can I say about the sin to anyone? Don't step into the sin deliberately. The first period with the sin is honeymoon sin. Always it looks like so pleasurable. In the long run, it is a poison. In the long run, it is so destructive. Very, very bad. Very, very bad. It looks like so attractive in the beginning because it comes with a ratification of our materialistic flesh desires. Then finally, when we gone to extreme, coming back it is very difficult. Feeling better is very difficult. So, like we keep up our bodies eat the food, right food, healthy food, and working out, and all how we keep our bodies in the similar way, we need to keep up with our souls. The first and final solution and the best solution is God. Because we don't know, if you have not begun walk in Lord, you don't know what condition you are now, how far, how much healthy it is. So as we go to the doctor and have checkup, all the checkup, blood checkup, bone checkup, urine checkup, everything if we done, the analysis would come out. So when we come to Jesus Christ, Lord, I want to analyze where I am. Then immediately He will scan and give you, this is the report. How can I fix? Repent and be. I will forgive and I will wipe you. No doctor on the earth can do that act. So depravity, lack of original righteousness or tendency toward God, and the corruption of the moral nature, so that it has a bias toward evil. It will be prompt bad, do bad. So depravity, lack of original righteousness or tendency toward God, and the corruption of the moral nature, so that it has a bias toward evil. It will be prompting, do bad, do bad, do bad, do bad. So some people, they think I need to be a good person. I need to be a better person. But by so some people, they think I need to be a good person. I need to be a better person. But by their thinking, they cannot stand up to that point because there is a bias in them. There's a bias in them, and their depravity is causing to fall back. Yeah, negatively. Yeah, negatively. Not the following. Destitute of conscience. We all have conscience, right? When we are doing we don't do certain things because we don't like to do it, which are bad. Can I go and murder my brother? Even I don't get it. Even if someone tells me, if you kill that person, get this much of benefit. Am I going to go and do it? No, because my consciousness does not work. Hey, your brother is not looking at there, and he left his wallet. You need some money, and there's $200, two bills. Come on, pick it up. Am I going to go and do it? No, because my conscience doesn't work. It doesn't promote that. But where the depravity is there, it's easy because the conscience is not working well. So how is the fix? The depravity has to be removed, and the moral conscience got to be increased. The sin effect and the sin which has wounded the soul very badly. So all those healing Jesus Christ can do. Devoid of all qualities pleasing to men, who are natural men, who are natural men, who have the pleasures pleasing, those qualities depraved men cannot have. And the depraved man is prone to every form of sin. He does not, your consciousness says, don't do this one, don't do this one. Why you don't do such certain things? Because of your consciousness. When to a depraved, totally depraved man, he doesn't have that consciousness. He doesn't have consciousness. So for every sin, he will do it shamelessly. And he will reach to an extent he cannot live in the community anymore. The law would separate him. And even in the jail, there are some people who cannot mix with other people. They become so dangerous. They become so dangerous. Page number 14. Intense as he can be in his selfishness and opposition to God, man can always get worse. Have you heard about some person who killed just for a cigarette? Kill somebody just for a cigarette. Cigarette. Shoes, all kinds of shoes. Shoes. For a drink. In India, one guy he killed in a bar. One girl, she didn't give the drink. Then damn. Horrible, right? It looks very horrible to us. He's very selfish. To him, she doesn't work, even to the equal to at least equal to her drink. Be positive, totally destitute of that love to God, which is the first demand of the law. So this depravity will destitute, the sin will destitute from the first command, first demand of the law, the love of God. There is no love of God. Chargeable with elevating some lower desire over regard for God. So to them, their desire is more important than God. God senses, silent, could be dead. When the God word has come, God signals have come, and somebody is talking about God, their senses won't open and they cannot perceive, they cannot take it in, they cannot digest it, even they could be adversely acting. Don't speak about God. They can become angry. That's what this depravity means, that what the sin, seriousness of sin can does. Supremely determined inwardly and outwardly for self over God. So to them, they are important than God. For the God's children, God is important than them. God is first. We are next. And God says something, we will do it. We will do it obediently. We will put God higher. When we put God higher, everything would be in order. Oh, I cannot do the sin because it is sin against God. Then you are placing the right order, and that will make you to do the right thing, and your moral conduct will be high, and God will be supplying the joy in the heart, and He will protect you, He will guide you, and He will lead you. Finally, even after the life on the earth, you will be with God in heaven. If someone denies God and does whatever they want, And that will become sin because they have ignoring God and deliberately pushing away God. And they are trying to take the absence of God as a pleasure. Finally, they will be doing all the things which are against God, and that will become sin. And finally, they will go to a place where God is not there. What is that place? That place is called as Hades or hell. Number four, possessed of an aversion to God, which may be latent but becomes hostile when God's will conflicts with his own. So that can become hatred towards God, the sense of God, and separated from God. Number five, disordered and corrupted in every faculty by his selfishness. Disordered and corrupted in every faculty by his selfishness. So when a person becomes selfish, and he would not think about God, and that can bring disorder in his life and also corruption and bring in his life. Some would think that I have no time for God. I'm so busy, I'm so occupied. I have to make the money and I have to pay all my bills and I have to do all that job. I don't have time for God. So the absence of God can bring his self requirements and his selfish nature, then that selfishness can bring disorder in his life and that can bring corruptions. It may take some time, but he's going to get up to that point. So when if we are living in the selfish nature of living, keeping God lesser than ourselves, then immediately we have to change it and take a U-turn. God is my priority. God doesn't say that 24 hours you worship me. Out of 1 week, give me 1 day totally dedicated to me. Give me a part of your time so that I will take care of your soul health condition. When we are eating, when we are piling up the calories, when we want to get it up, we will get on the treadmill. You might have seen people who get on the treadmill on a daily basis. In the same way, we need to consult God, we need to worship. So therefore, our soul would not fall into disorder. We would not go too far in absence of God. And we would not develop we ourselves as important than God is. Number six, created with no thought, action, or emotion of which God's holiness can fully approve. So we can give credit with no thought or emotion or action which God's holiness can fully approve. When a man is really worshiping God, he will pass his holiness into us, and that will become our personal holiness. This personal holiness brings the cleanliness, purity. It would say, don't think about that time. Jesus said, When you see a woman lustful, you already committed adultery. Did he do any illegal thing? No, he didn't do anything. Suppose someone goes and adulter with his friend's wife. Then what is he creating? The friend knows, is he going to feel happy about it? He will be very upset. He can be very aggressive. And Jesus is telling you don't have to do it sitting in a chair. If you just do it in your mind, that's it. It's the act is equal sin and it will have its full measure of consequences. So if a man is leading a holy life with God, then his consciousness, when the thought comes into the mind, he wouldn't allow it. Listen, even that kind of consciousness is coming. She's looking so pretty, but immediately the eyes and thought and mind will deny. This is not for me. So we will conduct ourselves, and the God's holiness will not approve. The one who is depraved, he can approve, which is unapprovable. Subject to constant progress in depravity, which he has no power to reverse or resist. As the depravity increases, he has no power to take you to. Somebody think that let me go a little far and stop myself from sinning. They are playing a very dangerous game. They are playing a very dangerous game. Once you start, it won't stop. Once you start, it will stop. And you do not have the power to resist or reverse. Who can do it? Lord Jesus can do it. We have to check ourselves. What is our consciousness and depravity status? At what index points it has stood? What index point it has stood? Slightly entering or deeply enrooted?